Hello world, and welcome back to the next part, what is we on, 8 of the podcast monitoring app. And so for this one, last time we finished creating the episode unit tests that verifies all of that verifies everything that we want to check for the episodes, for the episode class. And so today we're going to kind of fill in this information. Before we get started, I did a little bit of reconfiguring here. And so I moved over the command prompt over here. The problem with this is that if I'm typing in commands, they end up running off the side of the screen. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten this real quick. And so an easy way to do it kind of simply is, so if I type echo, which prints out stuff on the command line, and then I type prompt, I will end up seeing that prompt is $P, $G. And so what this stands for is P is the path. So P is this full path from the drive onto the folder that I'm currently in. And then G is this greater sign. So I'm going to update this. And so I'm going to go set X prompt. And I'm going to update it to $G for the greater sign, and then $S for space. And so now that was successful, but I need to open up another prompt for it to be actually set. So if you see, as I pull over this other prompt here, you'll see that now I got rid of this full path here, and I just have the little prompt, which will fit better on this kind of size that I have down here. Honestly, I would like the directory, because currently I'm not in the podcast monitoring directory, so I do need to switch into it. So that's the docs, my code, and then podcast monitor. And so now I'm back in here, and everything, if I'm writing commands, get status, get log, one line, everything is a little bit shorter. I am going to shrink this slightly and move it up. So it's not below the menu there. All right. So yeah, so last time created the unit tests. And now we're going to fill in the actual class itself. So let's start on that. The class here is going to be very similar to this class here. And we already have a skeleton for the init, the get items, and the validate. So let's just real quick. So we need to start up our virtual environment. So the virtual environment, scripts activate. So we get that as the prompt. It would be, yeah, so like I was saying, it'd be nice if we got, virtual environment, photo podcast monitor. I'll have to look up if there's an easy way to do that. So let's run the test real quick. So we'll go Python episode unit test. And so we see we have 12 tests, 11 failed. And that's, a test for everything. So let's just start filling in the stuff. In a sense, it's very similar to this. We'll kind of do the same sort of thing here. So first, since these functions are going to be exactly the same, we'll just put these right in. And now let's run the test. And what should happen I should have the test copies data should now pass. So I should get 10 failures, hopefully. Let's see if it works that way. Yep, so we got 10 failures out of the 12 because now this function, this is doing the actual copying. Before there wasn't actually anything there. So now we need to pass all the other tests. So basically for each of these pieces of data here, we want something that's similar to this. So I'm just going to paste this down in here. I'm going to get rid of this. And then I'm going to indent this well, okay, here, I'll do all of that as one step. So what do we need? And then so we also basically need this. So this will pass like 5 of the tests, 1 for each of these. So I'm just going to paste this in here too. So basically, I'm going to just create a random, I'm just going to create a kind of a simple variable for now. Well, I guess I can do it all in one. So one thing you can do in Visual Studio's Code, which is nice, is if I hit, I think it's Control Alt and then a down arrow, the cursor will essentially spread. And so now I can do everything on all these lines as one. If I hold Control and then hit the arrow, I'll basically kind of jump around by like the unit here. And then if I hit End, I'll come to the end. So let's jump to the end and let's get rid of everything except these because we just need the keys. Backspace these so they're in the right spot. Add the brackets for them. And then we'll actually come over, we'll copy these, and then we'll just go, we'll just type that, equals self. All right. And so now we, a couple quick easy commands just up to create all those. And so now we need to fill in. So this is going to be S title, S description. I guess we can just call this pub date because it doesn't have like a simple type. And we'll say, because right, the publishing date is actually a datetime object. So we could say like DT, or we could say like DT pub date, but honestly, that's probably descriptive enough. We'll put an I here, and this is also a string, so we'll do something like that. And so I think I mentioned in the past, the reason I put those little numbers in front is for, so if I have a simple type, it just kind of helps like indicate what it is. And then if I have things that are where I'm kind of converting data, right? So if I had like a length seconds that was an integer, or that was a string, and then I also want to turn it into integer, I don't have to like come up with as string, right? I can just kind of preface it with the right variables, or preface the variable with the right letter. So now that I have this, if I save this and I rerun the test, I should get 5 more passes. Great. So now I'm passing all of the these tests, that the exception for the key errors here for none of these keys exist. So I'm throwing an exception anytime one of these keys doesn't exist. I'm throwing a key error specifically. So now I need to test this here. So we have a type error for each one of them, as well as a value error for the publishing date and for the length in seconds, right? And so you'll see that in here first. Because they all have type errors, all of these are failing on a type error. We have the text bad title, right? Where it's failing test exception bad title, line 54 here. Is calling the verify exception raised, and so it's failing on line 23, right? So line 23 is here where it's getting this assert, and so line 54 is what calls into that, and that's for this one here. Is it 54? Yeah, 54. Okay, yeah, type error. So we want to generate this type error. So basically the type error is going to be the same as this type error, so we can just copy this over and add it in here. And so we just need to update this. I'm going to close this for a second so everything fits nicely. So we have the title, and this is title is blank but should be string. All right. Are these all correct? Okay, yeah, those are all good. Those are good. So, okay. So now we have this one. So we add that in, run the tests. Great, 4 tests. So let's add one of these in for each and every variable that we want to test, and one more for this one. All right, and then so we'll just do some quick copying and pasting. So we have this description, pub date, And then we have length seconds, pub date, description, and this should be a string. This should be a date time. So let's import the date time object. So from date time, import date time as DT. And then this should be an int. And so we should say, let's check this real quick. So I'm going to open up a interpreter. I just want to get what the type of int is. Class type. Don't want this. String. Oh, str. Str. Close it. No, how do we get the type of? Oh, okay, that's why. It's because the int is of a class type, but this is of a class int. So this is just int. And then if I take this, come in here, and I create a datetime dot now. This is the current date time, and I get the type of that. So this is a class datetime. So that's this one here. All right, great. So now let's just double check all this. We have titles, descriptions, pub date, seconds, MP3. So all those are good. And then we have string, int, DT, string. And now if one of them was wrong, like for example, if this was int, well, let's run it first. So we should get these two should pass, and then these three shouldn't. So we should get two more passes. So we'll exit back out, and we'll run this. So yeah, we still have the three failures. And then so just for example, right, like if this was int instead, well now we have a whole bunch more of issues because other things are now throwing errors where they're expecting it not to throw errors. So obviously 1 failure and 8 errors is worse than 3 failures. So let's see. So what else do we need? So now we have the type errors. So now we have these value errors here. This one is I guess technically the most complicated. This one's the simplest, and then this one's multiple. So I don't know, whatever. It's not that complicated. So we'll just go in order. So basically, right. So as you can see here, date times allow for use of operators like addition. They also allow for the use of the operator, like the greater less than operator. And so DT now is the current date time. And so that's basically what we're saying. We want to verify that in the future, if it's a future publishing date, so if this was published in the future, it's incorrect. So we're going to just copy this, even though it's going to be significantly different, I guess. So we'll say if pub date is greater than, let's do less than first to prove that it still fails. So we'll still get 3 failures, and then we'll flip it to greater than or equal to, basically the opposite. So if it's the exact time date that we're doing it. But so this is going to be dt.now, so that's the current date time. So if the publishing date is less than, so if it was in the past, we're going to raise a value error, and we're going to say pub date should be a future date time. Get rid of this, and now we should still have 3 failures. Okay, so now we're getting more because the this date time was in the past. So we're getting more for all the ones that we had. So now let's flip it to the correct one, which is greater than or equal to. So now we should hopefully have 2 failures if we did it right. Great. So now we have 2 failures. Move on to this one. So this one's going to be similar. What was this one? This one we wanted greater than 0 that has a positive. So I length seconds is greater than 0. So we want a positive amount of seconds that it existed for. I guess you could say 0, but I mean, like if it was a completely empty podcast, but we can treat that as an error. That's fine for now. The question is like, so since this one kind of sits in between our data that we don't control, so like for the feed metadata, we control that. So that one's kind of less of an issue. This one sits along with data that we don't control. And so we want to make sure that it is like proper for it to be kind of used. So if we're doing, certain maths on things, and it's a 0, well, that kind of has probably has like a decent effect on what we are implying when we use it. So length second should be positive. And then there was one. Okay, so interesting. So we ended up with 4 errors now on that. So bad length sec still failing. We're also getting exception on no MP3 is failing, bad MP3. So let's see, why is no MP3 failing? So we're getting a value error. Length sec should be positive. So let's check this out. So here, we're not changing length of seconds. All right, so it's coming in. So now I don't want to do a full debug on it. So I'm going to look at, we're on the no. So we're on this one here. So let's just print this and see what we get. So where did it run up top? Right here. All right, so when we print it out, we have length of seconds is positive. I wonder if, let me reread the error. Let's see if we did things right. So we have I length sec. Oh, we're raising an error if it is positive. We want to raise an error if it's less than or equal to 0. So that's the same thing I did. I messed up with the other, or I intentionally did with the other one. I just messed up here. So it wasn't no issues with the test. The tests are good, and now we have the one failure. All right, so now for this last one, we're testing 2 things. We'll do it one at a time. So we want to raise an error if it doesn't have HTTP, and we want to raise an error if it doesn't have MP3. And so the first one is actually the same error as this one. So we'll just add that in, but instead we'll say it's MP3 and MP3. Still get the failure, but right before was occurring on line 79, just here. HTTPS. It's still occurring on line 79, so it should be occurring now on line 82. Let's just verify that we didn't also get this one wrong. So if HTTPS not in, so let's see what it is, because we're only getting that one failure, so it's fine everywhere else. So let's just print, so the one time that actually comes up, we'll just print SMP3, and we'll see what that is. All right, so I'm not seeing, so is it saying it's empty? print self.episode data. All right, so up here, MP3 is bad link. Oh no, now it is on line 80. So it must have just been maybe I didn't save or I was looking at the wrong one. So let's get rid of that. And then just go back on that. All right. So line 80, line 79. Wait a minute. Yeah. No, see, now it's back. Okay. So I'm not crazy. Okay, hold on. So for some reason, when we did this, it passed. So it's just awkward. Let's see. So we're still getting line 79. So let's add this back in. Line 79. Okay. Oh, so now it's line 80. So, okay, never mind. I'm just sleep deprived, apparently. All right, so we have MP3 issues badlink.com, and so coming up here. So nothing, so let's come back in here and let's just print out the whole thing, self.d data, since it doesn't want to print that part. Value error, what is going on here? Let's see. So it's weird because it's seemingly not actually in here. All right, so it should print this, and that should print here at some point. So it'll print here for every test, but it should print. So it gets here. All right, so that's this here. I might have to debug this. I might just debug it anyway, even if I figure it out right now. But so let's add this in here. Okay, so it hits that. Come in here. It's hitting it there. So we'll say here 1. Here 2. So we get the here 1. We're not getting the here 2. Oh, I also think I have the errors backwards, actually, now that I think about it. But like, so this one is, technically this one's testing that it doesn't have the MP3. So that's why. This one's testing, so I'm actually making this one pass right now. That's what's going on here. Because, so I'm passing it the HTTPS www.badlink.com, and it comes in here and says, okay, well, if this is not in there, raise an error, but it is in there, so then it doesn't raise any errors, which is why it's doing the assert, which I should have probably noticed earlier. Again, I blame sleep. So let's actually switch this. So this is, we want to make sure it has a .mp3. MP3 should link to a valid MP3 file. Okay, so now we get down to line 83 here. Just now 82, and now we want that. Now we want the other one. So I'm going to just back that all up. And then MP3 should be a valid link. So now everything should pass. Cool. And so if we check it out, we've only edited this file here. So we had all the tests. They were all good. And all we did was we added in this code here. So we updated the validate code with all the checks that we had wanted for this. So that's great. And now if we look at git status, we can say, and we have a git log real quick. So last time we created the UTs, and so we'll say git commit, and so we marked it as the broken, so fixed, updated, episode, so all UTs pass. Great. How much time we got? We're in 26 minutes? All right. I guess let's just set it for next time and then we'll call it. So we're going to do a very similar thing to these, to the feed metadata. So I'll use that as the one to copy from. So we're going to do the same thing. And so let's come over here actually real quick and mark. So we'll mark this one completed. And then the bundle class is now what we're starting. So mark that as in progress. And so basically this is going to contain an episode dictionary and it's going to actually contain a list of episodes and the metadata for the podcast. So it's going to have two things. It's going to have, so it's going to be actually very, very simple as far as the validation portions go, because we're just going to validate that it has one of these and then that it has a list, and that list contains all of these. So that way, whenever we're operating on it, everything's good. So let's create a feed.py and a feed unit test.py. And so I will copy and paste stuff to make this go quickly. So let's just kind of copy and paste this in here. Remove that part, update this to feed. Now this is going to be different. So we're not going to have the get item anymore. So let's get rid of that, but we are still going to have a validate method. For now at least. And so we'll keep that in there. And then this is going to be similar to here. So let's come in here and just add this quick skeleton. So we'll remove all these tests we have here. Test hello. And then this is going to be feed. This is going to be feed. And then this is going to be feed test. And then we don't need this one. And setup will be the same. All right, great. So those are saved. Let's real quick just run feed unit test. Great, everything there is all set up. And so we'll say git commit am added skeleton for feed and its UT. Cool. All right, so we're about 30 minutes. So let's tag this real quick. getting close to reaching the full page. And so next time we'll end up git tag episode 8 we're on. And so next time we're going to create, and it should be really quick. So we're going to create the last data class that we were doing. Oh, this is wrong. It should be feed. So let's reset that real quick. So we'll just do git reset. And so that just removes the last commit. Oh, so interestingly, I don't think we even committed that feed stuff anyway, which is why it was still there, because we only did the work tracker. So we need to do a git add, and then we'll come back up, and then we'll rerun the git commit, as well as the tag. So we need to delete this tag because dead commit, add it back in, and git log. One line. All right, great. So next time what we're going to do is we're going to fill out the test for this, create the feed class for it, which will be very simple. And then we are going to merge it all back into main. Now we could keep all of this kind of as it is, but obviously, a lot of these commits are kind of, honestly, it can just be one commit. And so I'm going to do kind of some basic cleanup. And so I think I'm going to end up doing, so I'm going to create another branch to merge it on. Then I'm going to take all these commits and turn them into one single commit. And then I'm going to merge them back into main, and then I'll probably tag it with this. So if you were looking for, if you were trying to trace through different things, right, you'd see, and maybe, and I'll think about a decent way to kind of tag that, but so then what will end up happening is all these episodes 5, 6, and 7. So you'll have episode 1, 2, 3, and then you'll have a merge commit for this data classes with episodes 5, 6, and 7, and then we'll have episode 8. So yeah, that should be all for this one. And so next time we'll finish up the data classes. So yeah, see you.